We're live. We're live. We're live. Awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
Welcome to today's Confessions of a Global Changemaker show. We're going to dance our way through it. Should we just do the whole thing through mime and dance? Pull out all the moves. It's like music in my head. It doesn't matter, you can't hear it. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world, whatever you're doing. Welcome to today's show. I have the amazing, brilliant, creative, funny, genius, generous Miss Kelly Forrester on the show today. And I'm so blessed and feeling really quite humble that this amazing lady has graced us with her presence, being so freaking busy in the middle of launching a global program and doing all kinds of stuff. Kelly, welcome to today's show.
Well, Sammy, this is exactly why I friggin' love you, because your energy is just out there. I mean, I don't know who you were talking about just then, because it did not sound like me, but you know, it's cool.
It was you. It was you. It was you. Hello. Say hello. Let us know that you're here. I can see a big hello. But Fiona, I'm guessing that might be you, because it hasn't got your name on there. It could be anybody. So
Okay,
wishing you a big hello.
The more people, the better. So
let's just keep them coming. Tag in some other people that you think will enjoy today's show, because we are going to be talking about resilience and growth, and how this amazing lady in front of you has gone through some of the biggest challenges to get where she is. And I think, hi, Janice, it's so easy to look at where somebody is now and not understand the journey that they've gone through. It's Mr. Carl. Carl's on the show. Carl has currently kidnapped my husband somewhere in Suffolk, and I've no idea. He just, it was really funny. Sorry, a little side here. Carl, how much my husband loves you, and that he said, "Oh, Carl's running something." I said, "Oh, why don't you go?" He went, "Okay." So he booked the whole thing. I said to him last night, "What are you actually doing while you're there?" He said, "I don't know. I just like him. I know it's going to be good." So that's the thing, right? When you build a brand, you have trust, and it gets to the point where it doesn't really matter what you're doing. You just know the experience is going to be good. And love you, Sammy. So grateful you're doing this. You are very welcome. I'm not sure who you are because your name isn't there, but I love you too. I just love playing together. So Kelly, let's dive into a little bit of your background. Let's go straight in with a confession, because everything is looking so amazing, and like the growth that you're going through is just extraordinary on a day-to-day basis. Like I feel out of breath just watching the amount of change that you're creating, and the amount of resilience you're building in your own business. So you're a brilliant example of that.
I'm just loving it though. I am in so much flow. I literally looked at my watch earlier and went, shit. Sorry about the language, but I was like, oh my God, I've got 5 minutes. And I spilt my tea down my top, and I was like, oh, I've now got to get changed. And it's all fine, because at the end of the day, when you really do love what you do, although the words, when you are really passionate about what you do, you never feel like you ever have to work again. Well, I kind of get that, but you do have to work, because you have to be fiercely resilient, driven, and so focused and disciplined. But you just do it because you really, really love it, and you know what your vision is, and you know how you're going to achieve it. So you know your mission. Put purpose into that, and real intent as well, and it just drives you forward. And I can tell you now that I have been through the most horrific times in my life.
Well, you've been through what most people would totally give up. I mean, there's lots of because obviously I know Kelly's story. You are going to learn about Kelly's story, but one of the things that most impresses me about you is your ability to bounce back, because there are so many people that just won't, and even it's almost like the straw that broke the camel's back, isn't it? Sometimes there can be stuff after stuff after stuff after stuff, and then one little thing, bang. But with you, it was like big stuff after big stuff after big stuff after big stuff. Was there ever a point where you just thought, I'm done?
Yes. Yeah. So February earlier on, like last year, so not even 2 years ago. And you're right, you know, there's a lot of people in life, they go through their own journey, they create their own tapestry of life, I like to call it. So 10-year growth cycles, kind of as you grow through, your own character, your own inner resilience and strength comes to the forefront of your own journey. And for me, it's been like that since I was 14. So I've had to look for solutions. I've had to disrupt. I've had to carve and path my own way to get my own future and to create and build my own legacy. And I'm not prepared at any stage to give up or for anybody to put me down. I'm so focused on that forward mission. But now a lot of people say, well, you've got to work on yourself first and then you work on the outside. Well, I have worked on myself first. This last year when I broke, it was like my whole world could have ended quite easily. And it took every single piece of energy inside me to pick myself back up, to build up to the point where I could believe in myself. And then working through those emotions, working on the fact that, and the biggest lesson I learned was although I had my business, I wasn't my business. I was still me. So, but because I was so passionate and had put everything into my business, I had associated myself in it. So it wasn't until I was released that I then realized, actually, I am me. And that's actually quite powerful. Fucking hell, I'm Kelly Forrester. And then that was, wow, everything I've learned. And just because it's a failure story, actually, it was just the beginning, because then I realized who I was. And working on those emotions and that inner kind of strength and everything else, I realized that all my life I've been about resilience, forward growth, helping, believing, loving others, leading with love in everything I do. But I have had to build that resilience. And also I've made monumental judgment errors, if you like. So now it's about knowing who I can and can't trust too. In business, that's really important. So it's been a year, I can tell you.
From what the little bit that I know, the little cherry on the top. So for those of you that are watching the show now, and it'd be great if you can comment. Obviously, if you're driving, do not do that. But if you're listening via the podcast, keep driving, keep listening. But just, mull this over and at some point come in and chip into the conversation here on the whatever channel it is you're watching us from, because we're going live via 5 channels right now. If there's ever been a time where you hit saturation point, I'd love to hear what your saturation point was. For me, it was walking away from my millions and millions of pounds company, but being saturated. It was that point of burnout and really, at that point of breaking through. And I think it's at that time where you bust through that breakthrough. It feels like the world's going to end, doesn't it? And just on the other side of that is the life that you're meant to be having.
And it's really hard, because when you're going through that, you don't see anything on the other side. You can only feel that overwhelming emotion that almost cripples you. I was very suicidal. And I don't mind talking about this because my mental resilience now is very strong. But there was at one point where I couldn't walk outside my house. And I also had suicidal thoughts, and it was just my boys. I've got teenagers, and I thought, I can't leave them.
Well, it's not surprising, really, because if you think about the magnitude of what you went through, not only did you lose your business, but you had press attacks. So you had all kinds of pressure on you coming from every angle. Your pressure as a mum, your pressure as the provider, your pressure as having to keep up appearances for the community. There's all these different pressures that we actually, I think as business owners, we never give ourselves credit enough for all of the things that we really manage, because we just get on and do it and have this mental to-do list at the end of the day that you have a go at yourself for not ticking each of those things off and what there is still left to do and what you didn't do. We're very good at that. But what we never really do is give ourselves a pat on the back and say, you're still here. And many people aren't for going through less things that each of you on the call today have been through. So Kelly, knowing that you've got young children, you've got mouths to feed, you lose your business, tell us a little bit about the business loss side of things, because I know that when I walked away from my business, it felt like something had died, and it was very traumatic, especially seeing somebody else take over that business and then grow it. How did it feel for you, just being at the point where the only option you had was to let go?
It was really, really hard, because there were members of my staff or team that had been there for over 10 years. So that's a long time to put your trust in your team and to build and grow a business. So the day that the liquidators essentially came in and I closed the doors for the first time, there was a few things that, really did. It was walking into that office literally moments before I was still trying to find a solution, on the telephone to another developer, trying to kind of create a solution to make sure that my creditors weren't affected. And I just couldn't find that solution. So that's the first time that I've ever got to a point where there is nothing I can do. And for me, saying goodbye to my staff for such a long time was absolutely devastating. Saying goodbye to the office furniture. I know it sounds, but walking around what I had created from nothing in 2007, but my kitchen, to building up a team of 8 staff, being highly disruptive and innovative in a very male-dominated industry, to what I had created, which was not just regionally award-winning, but nationally award-winning. All of those things, one department grown it to 5. It was almost like I had not only just failed myself, but I'd failed my team, my boys, obviously my creditors, who were for the most part my friends who I'd worked with for so long. But the press and the way that they escalated it and made it seem was really hard, because I couldn't talk and communicate to lots of people. Everything had been kind of cut out. So all of my software, all my access to my emails, everything, all the files. So I was kind of cut off from all of that. And that was really hard as well. And trying to face liquidators, going through that whole process, there were times where I felt so numb, it just didn't feel real. And now, because obviously the emotion and the rawness has gone, and I can talk about this, and I love to talk about it, because I think you have to, if you go into any loan agreement, check. You never think that your business is going to fail, but we don't know if there's going to be a global recession or anything. So everything you've worked so hard for, be careful, protect your assets. Number 2, don't go into a joint venture or a business partnership without getting legal protection. And again, that's where I failed to see. So I recognized quickly where, I'd made mistakes, crucial mistakes that, led to the failure of my business. And I take full responsibility for it, because as a manager, as a leader, that is your responsibility. But then you have to, as a duty to your business, as a duty to the creditors, try and still work a way forwards and progress with that. And that's what I had to do. And it was really, really hard. It was really hard. But
what was the most surprising thing about that situation? What surprised you the most going through that?
Still, some of those creditors now will talk to me and have had conversations and say, why didn't you just say? Why didn't you tell us what was happening? You managed our properties for 10 years, 12 years, and we loved how you operated. We loved, and that was a surprise for me, how some of the people that got affected by my business demise stood by me. Some obviously reacted in the total opposite and were really hard to deal with. And the hardest thing for me was the business community, those that were happy to celebrate, sing and dance, all the community campaigns and all the things that I had done for my local community. I mean, I raised over 4 years over £20,000 for one of my local charities. I've got a real thing about old people, and I just love giving
we were
back.
talking about
Loads. A lot of them just didn't even ask me, didn't come and say, do you need our support? And that's the first thing that I would ever do for anybody else. So don't assume, because people will just slowly go away. And I think sometimes maybe they don't know what to say. It's a bit like a bereavement, as you say. Sometimes they don't know how to react. Sometimes they may even believe the press rather than talk to you straight, you know. Right. And that's something you have to work through. And that's where the resilience comes in, because you have to, I've shared my truths from day one, broken, crying in tears. I've been active on social media and I've just shared them. I haven't shared them with the press and the media because of what they did to me, but I have shared them on my personal wall, which is public, and I've shared them throughout all of my community projects as well, because truths break barriers. Truths really do help other people. They inspire people. Sharing my story has inspired hundreds of people from all over the world. And that's what I want to continue to do.
And you're obviously on a mission to do that, and because everything is falling into flow, everything is dropping into place. When you've been through something as traumatic as that as well, there's a part of you that will always be cautious, but there's also a part of you that realizes that actually what you've been through is a gift, and you're now using that gift to, which you never know at the time, but you're now using that gift to support, which I know it will be millions of people around the world, either directly or indirectly through the business owners that you work with, to help make an even bigger impact, but a sustainable one, and one that creates a resilient business, which creates resilient results.
Yeah. When you go into business, I think, especially as a solopreneur and entrepreneur, it's a dream, it's an ambition. So you put absolutely everything into that. And you have to, as an entrepreneur, you have to kind of ignore everything else and what people say, and just really be 100% focused on your forward path. So it's important to get really specific and get full clarity on that vision going forward, and really believe in it too. And so when you're doing that, it's, how can I say it? When something like that happens to you, like it had happened to me, it's almost the opposite of that, from the opposite end of the spectrum, but you still have to believe, you have to pick yourself up, and you have to start again. And that can be quite hard. And I think that's why sometimes people say, well, it's so amazing that you've bounced back. But I've had years of that through all my life, of having to just pick myself up and start again. So I think that's where I can help other people, because it doesn't matter what you go through in life or business, it's never the end. And so if you're at a point, because there's going to be so many people affected by business demise, by change, by the new landscape, and thinking, how can I adapt? What solutions can I find? How can I grow forwards? What about my family, income? I need to support myself. I need to maybe do something first for the, maybe for the first time. And so that confidence of like stepping in and being really brave and courageous doesn't just happen. So when somebody like me stands up and goes, fuck failure, okay, that goes to the side.
I think that needs a hashtag. Those of you that are watching, give us a fuck failure. Hashtag fuck failure.
Be respectful to what happened, because you never ever, like for me, if I could ever get into a position where I could put things right, that is my first priority. So be respectful to that. But what I'm saying is those emotions, that shame and guilt and all of those things that I carried forward, and other people will too, because when you have losses, you have to think about actually, and this was the biggest lesson for me as well, was that gratitude, extreme gratitude. So when I really thought that that was it, I didn't want to be here anymore, I thought, well, actually, how would I feel if one of my sons had a life-changing illness or was taken from the world too early? And then that made me think, actually, I do want to be here. So that extreme gratitude, and a lady called Ruth Miller Anderson actually shared that with me, and I'll always be so grateful to her for that, because that was kind of like my little step up. And it allowed me to start to think and reframe things. And, there we are. So that's why I like to say to people, look, it doesn't matter what you go through in life, you can turn around. It's a choice how you respond. The resilience is adapting to that change or that crisis as quickly as you can. because you can wallow around in your emotions. You can chew yourself up in those thoughts, and you do more damage to yourself than anybody else. And so you have to park that and just move forward. And it is really hard, but it can be done. So never, ever, ever give up, ever.
Yeah, I think it's a key thing, isn't it? You know, no matter what shape or size the catastrophe, it's just keep falling forward, as you say. Now, I mean, obviously, there's a huge part of you, which I'm sure you've had from childhood, which is very much about integrity. Like you carry that through everything that you do. Surely a core value for you, and truth obviously must be a core value for you, because you build your entire business around that, and you know, very admirably so, because a lot of people are a bit afraid to actually be themselves in business. So what would you say, you know, from like, when did you realize that you were a change maker? Because clearly you are, and you've had this within you from day one. So what was the first point, if we look back, that you realized that actually you're here to do something bigger? How old were you?
It was September last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So how many years had you been on the earth at that point?
Sammy, I'm now 41.
Well, I didn't quite ask it outright.
I'm only jesting with you. You gotta have fun, right? That's one of my other values. So I'd never recognized that in myself. I'd always just thought
like part of you that had maybe been living someone else's life up until last year.
Yeah, because I didn't know any different to what I had always done. So when I say that my failure was just the beginning, for me it really was, because I didn't recognize that I was any different. I didn't recognize the speed at which I work. I didn't recognize the skills, the strengths, the values that underpin me. I didn't see any of that. It wasn't until I was completely broken and I realized, when I was at my most fluid, if you like, in that flow state of nature and being able to just be free with my creativity, my thoughts. And that was when I went, oh my God, I love training, you know, that whole kind of empowerment with my team. And so mentoring and helping entrepreneurs is 100% a gift that I'm so proud to have. And I love it. I love every single day. I'm so grateful for breaking my world, because it was just the start of me realizing what I could do to help others. And that was really powerful. So it wasn't until September, when I was free from what I was doing, and I'd had about 2 years of cash flow crisis and managing this challenge to a next. So it was really kind of like that last couple of years in my business, seeing my car, seeing my home, all the losses, and then realizing, do you know what? It's not materials in life, Kelly. Why are you doing that? It's got nothing to do with materials. I love just having time and memories with my family. And I love doing things that cost nothing. Yeah. But that's purpose and that's wisdom. And that took being broken to realize that. So again, when I say, you know, to people that maybe are facing these situations or have had change in their life, sometimes that's a gift, because it shows you actually that there is a better way forward. And for me, that's living my life with intent, purpose, integrity, love, forward growth. And it's always about me protecting others. I love protecting, because I don't want anybody to ever go through what I went through, ever.
Right. Yeah. And that's totally what drove me as well. I think that's what drives many entrepreneurs as well. And you know what's interesting about, so I launched How to Build a Brand in 2014 after going through the burnout and walking away from my company in 2013. And I got to the point where when I launched How to Build a Brand, it was absolutely about that. I didn't want anybody to go what I went through. I was on a mission, boom. And then about 2 years later, I met she's now a dear friend of mine, Kezia Luckett. And we were having a call. I was living in France by that point, and I was mentoring her. And on one of our mentoring calls, she said, you know, Sammy, I think you've made it to that point now. When are you going to start actually living for you, and not, instead of fighting to protect people, is actually, let's stop fighting. You don't need to fight anymore. You've achieved it, right? You don't need to fight anymore. Now you can just grow from here. And it was really interesting how it was like that one moment where she gave me permission. And it was interesting, like when you're fighting, you attract a certain sort of person who they're all going through problems. And when I gave that up and thought, okay, that's a really interesting piece of feedback, I'm going to take that on, because I like my feedback. It doesn't always, sometimes there's an ouch with the feedback, but there's always a reason for it. But it was really interesting, just thinking, okay, well, if I did choose to let that go and I focused on the growth instead of the pain, what would that do differently? And isn't it interesting? Brand Builders Club was launched not long after that, and everything just seemed to be in flow. So you're obviously on the track that you're meant to be. You're completely in flow. So tell us about, like, what's coming up next for you, because you and I have had loads of conversations, and I know some of the things that are coming up. But those of you sitting with your bum out there, you don't know about this yet. So Kelly, tell us about the journey you've been on a little bit as well, in terms of what it was like to start again, because there are lots of entrepreneurs who've been in business a long time who are now going through the process, just like you and I have done, of evaluating and saying, actually, you know what, that got me where I am, but that's not where I want to go. And so they're thinking of pivoting. They're thinking of maybe doing something or going in a different direction. They're feeling the calling. They're hearing the calling, and they're finally reacting on the calling to be who they really are and serve the purpose for which they were really born. So what were the steps that you first took, having made all the mistakes, having gone down those roads already? What did you do? How did you get started with this next vision?
Well, that's a really good point, because this is something that I do now. I've got a development course, which I think you may have seen me do this Find Your Power. And so it was firstly accepting exactly where I was, everything that had happened to me. So all of the things. So right from a child, right through to adulthood. So if you take that abuse, that is leaving home at not even 15, that is domestic violence, and that is also second marriage to adultery. So there's and also spinal surgery, just to add that into the mix. Okay, and then business failure or liquidation. So all of those things, I had to work on those things to accept that they've happened to me. But then also think, well, actually, what lessons have they taught me? So that was the first thing. So if you've ever gone through, crisis or adversity, think about, okay, accepting that that's happened, having a look at actually the lessons that you've learned, but also looking for resources. So what can I take from that? And that's the thing that I've always worked really hard on, is what can I bring with me? What can I help to serve others or to help me grow forwards? And so that's really important. But also the real key thing to this is all of those things are supported by your heartbeat, you. So it was understanding who I was inside all of that, what my skills are, what my strengths are, what, makes me me. And then that's not just the badass kind of crazy Kelly, that is the actual skills that I have inside me. So if you are going through challenges, anybody listening, and they're having to start again, think about those challenges, how you can reframe it, how you can accept and move on, and take any lessons that you've learned to either help others or to help yourself to not make those mistakes again. Then look at yourself and understand that, yes, there's going to be shit in there that you don't like. There's going to be uncomfortable truths that you don't want to face. There's going to be stuff in there that you've got the battle wounds, you've got the scars, the ugly, gritty stuff. But it's okay, because every human being in the planet has that. I don't know anybody that hasn't got some battle scars somewhere. You might hide them. You might look at somebody and you think, wow, they've got it all together, but you don't see the journey in that. So then you can start to work a path to go forward. And that's where creating that vision, understanding actually, what do I want? In fact, being broken and having nothing means you start from zero. And that's actually really quite I don't know the word, Sammy. What is it when you're free because you can't go any lower? You know, so
liberation, isn't it?
It is liberating because you go, right, so what do I want? And then you can just start to build, and it's small steps, really small steps. There were times when I had to force myself to go to a Sainsbury's, to go food shopping, or to make a phone call, or to do a live. But I kept with it. And I kept doing my lives. I kept doing like the groups that I do. I kept building my community. I kept sharing my truths. I kept trying to say to people, failure is not a dirty word. It is not the end. It is just the beginning. And I'm here to allow people to move on from failure and from feeling like they're a failure, because nobody should feel that. And I think in the UK especially, failure seems to be this big thing. Whereas some areas of the country, it's like, oh, well, you've gone bankrupt. Oh, wow, you know. But over here, it's like, whew. So it's trying to sort of
almost like a badge of honor in other countries, isn't it? I remember when I interviewed Marie Diamond, when we launched the Law of Brand Attraction. Marie Diamond from The Secret is one of the authors in there, and I interviewed her on this show. And that was her confession, was that she had built this amazing business over in Belgium, and then, you know, the star impact maker that she became in America, she didn't look after her business back in Belgium, and so her business ultimately failed back at home, and she wasn't looking at the money back at home, but she was over there, and she was sat in a room with Jack Canfield at the big summit that they had at his house, however many times a year, and she said she was sat there. Somebody at the front got up and said, like, how many of you have been bankrupt? And she didn't dare put her hand up, but everybody put their hand up and said, how many of you have been bankrupt more than once? How many of you have been bankrupt like 3 times or more? And people were putting their hands up, and she was just like, oh my God, she was so embarrassed of it. Yeah. But ultimately they all had battle scars, and all of them had become major influencers because of the battles that they'd gone through.
Absolutely. And this is the thing about, you know, things like that, because it's not until you are bankrupt or until you go through business failure, you know, there are a lot of people that will turn their back, or you don't hear from them again. And that's you have to kind of move on from that. And this is where focus actually doesn't become an issue, because you don't want to think about what other people are doing anyway, because the way forward is just your way forward. And so it's really quite interesting, because when you realize that the people that have been there for you, their value, their worth, like for me, that's no more than a handful, maybe just about 2 handfuls. But those people like you, Sammy, who actually do step up and do help, that means everything to somebody that has nothing or is trying. And that is the difference, and that gives people hope. And that's what I intend on doing as well, is paying that forward, because it is a ripple effect. Yeah. It's a ripple effect of what we can do as, you know, paying it forwards. And that's, again, so important, I think, in helping others to move forward from failure or loss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's this element of trying to be perfect, isn't there, as an entrepreneur, because you can become quite a public profile pretty quickly. And of course, with social media, there's that added pressure of being perfect. But like you say, when you start sharing your truth and you start sharing the real story, you actually find that the shares go up, the likes get, you know, more in abundance. You start to get more people commenting on the truths that you share, more than any kind of promotional content that you put out. And you'll always find that. And, you know, you are very focused on really reaching out and engaging with people, aren't you? That's one of your core strengths, is to not just post something, but to post something that creates a conversation.
Yeah. I am a content creator. I don't really consume too much, but what I do is I make it my mission to make sure that I'm sending that to somebody that needs to hear it that day. So in that present moment, when I write that particular piece of content, I do have a framework that I operate from, but I make sure that whatever it is I'm writing has the potential to help one more person. And that's really important to my work, because, you know, anybody can just write stuff, But when it actually comes from your heart and from a place of really wanting to serve, that's really important, I think, anyway. And so it's not about that. I couldn't care if I didn't get any likes. I couldn't give a shit. I couldn't care if I didn't get any engagement. What I do care about is when I get a private message and it's like, they don't want to put it on my wall, but they want to speak to me. And I get so many of those, and I do get engagement, obviously, but the ones that send me directly and say, you don't know what you've done for me. Like, you've literally changed my world, the projection of where I was going. I mean, I've helped people that are struggling with drugs. I've helped people that have struggled with suicidal thoughts. I've helped people that have been broken, who've come out of relationships, men and women, all different ages. I've helped entrepreneurs. I've helped business owners, large business owners. And that's kind of, I don't mind how it's kind of seen. The bigger that I can go, so the more influential, the more global reach that I can have, the better. Because I want for the new entrepreneurial world to be not about the bullshit, not about the fucking shiny, but about the real truths, the real essence of an entrepreneur. And that is hard work. So the more that we're honest about that, instead of sharing all the shiny, the more that we can actually protect ourselves, help each other as a collective on a global scale, and put right where the world or the globe is broken. Yeah. And that's what I want to do. I want to help be that kind of, that step, that force for good. And we need that. We really do need that right now.
Well, let's talk about that, the new entrepreneurial world, because we've just entered it's like a global playing field, isn't it, really? I mean, what we've just come through, there is almost no such thing as local anymore, because everybody is thinking in a much bigger way. Yeah. And also from the perspective of marketing yourself as well. All of a sudden, we've gone from being able to compete locally to you're not competing with somebody locally anymore. You're actually competing with eyeballs from all over the world, and you're advertising campaigns from people all over the world that are now advertising to your next door neighbor. It opened it up, hasn't it? There is a new entrepreneurial world. So how do you see this new entrepreneurial world shaping up? What does it look like in Kelly's world?
It's amazing. Now, I mean, the reason I'm so excited about this is because I know that it takes, like, you can look at adversity, crisis, global change, transition as a challenge or as a problem, or you can put your skates on, strap yourself in and think, right, something needs to change. Key people need to be the force that does that, So it's like, I want to instigate that change. And I know people want it. So now it's about working collectively across the globe. So, for instance, your brand is so powerful. Your brand can be what the world sees of you and what you stand for. And so it's so important to make sure that you get your brand right and it speaks really, really loud and clear. So again, the same with your business model. The more you can be specific about it, not hide away from cash flow, not hide away from making big decisions. All the things that people may be scared of is actually having those conversations. Really, right, well, where are you? The SWOTs, I know they sound a bit boring, but, be honest about it. What are your strengths, weaknesses? What are your opportunities? But also, what are your threats? Because it's so important to understand the landscape in which you're swimming in. So for me, the reason I'm so excited about this is because I believe that we want to work forward for growth. We want to live a life where our planet is not just going to be greener, but more in terms of the future generations. And it's going to take small steps. Like, I know that the steps I make might be a tiny little ripple. It's going to take hundreds and hundreds of years to go back from where we are, but you've got to start somewhere. So, maybe me being broken, going through what I have in my life, me over here in little UK in the Southwest, but I have a vision. And that vision is helping entrepreneurs, smaller business owners that have got to that stage where they're turning over 10, 12, 15K a month. So I'm not looking for like the large corporates, but the ones where they feel the weight of those stresses on their shoulders. and they actually want to talk about it, and they want to find solutions and work together rather than this competition, and actually be really truthful and transparent about where they are, so we can help each other, from small entrepreneur who's just got that vision to right up there to that end result. So I can't wait, because I just
because you're just literally on the cusp of launching, aren't you? So I mean, you've got your Entrepreneur Truths podcast, so guys and girls, make sure you go and check out Kelly and Martin's podcast, Entrepreneur Truths. They've got some brilliant experts on there, but also some really amazing life stories, like the one that you've literally published. Was it this week? Was it Emma
Davies? Oh my goodness, amazing and incredible lady.
Like so you really dive into the truths behind who they are. And I mean, I've been on the show, so I know how much, how far, how deep you go, and the questions that you ask are, you know, they're really sometimes emotional, you know, very emotional questions, because we're going right back to childhood and all kinds of things, which I wasn't expecting, but it's really nice to be able to. It's actually refreshing to be able to for us on the other end of the questions, to be able to realize how far we've come as well. So you've got this brilliant podcast, Entrepreneur Truths. You've got various challenges that you run, but you've also got a program that you're developing now, which is all about the new entrepreneurial world for leaders that are at a stage of business where they're ready to go to the next level, but don't want to do it alone. They want to have some other people around them who have really been through it, that have got the war wounds, that can tell them what's coming and support them to go to that next level of growth. So I'm very happy to be a part of the delivery of that program. I love that we're going to be working together on that. So Kelly, tell everybody that's listening now, like, what are some of the things that you're going to deliver in that program that might be of interest to them?
Well, there's going to be a lot delivered. I think the key essence here is it's all structured around the new entrepreneurial world, so the landscape in which we currently sit in. So resilience and growth are key to this, but also accelerating business growth. So essentially what we look at are the core areas of business. So we're looking at business model, specifically online, or specifically online strategies. We're looking at sales and marketing, so really powerful, how to create that global impact throughout the world. We're looking at finances and growth, so, you know, if needed, even capital, you know, to be able to enable that growth freely without the pressures and stresses. We're looking at the heartbeat of the person, so the mindset and the resilience. And this is important because, as you know, when you're running a business, yourself can be at the bottom of the queue, but actually, in order to run a successful business, you have to put yourself first. It's not selfish, it's what's best for your business. So it's that as well. And then there's lots of different strategies and helping you with operational systems. So some of which is automation, which helps you to be able to work smarter. And it's all designed, and I mean, I've literally mapped out the whole year, so I've got everything in there. And you, bless you, as my mentor, you had a look and you were like, Kelly, I think you're over delivering here. And undercharging. We are responsible to never lead somebody to overwhelm. And those words, this is why I'm saying this now, is because that was really powerful for me, because I realized that no, I never do want to do that. I never would. I'd feel awful if I ever did that. So my thing is, in order to move forward within all the different modules of my course, which I'm supporting, I'm guiding, I'm nurturing, I will make sure that everybody understands fully how they can implement those systems or strategies into their business model, so they're not overwhelmed. They haven't even got that, oh, I'm not sure what she said there, or it's going to be, if you're unsure, you've got an opportunity to ask, and I will always help you. And then we move forward on to the next module, because it's so important to get everything right.
Well, you're going to take a small group of people through it so that you can give them that personal experience as they go through it as well. And there's not much out there that's like that these days, because everybody wants to take it online and they don't want to have that personal touch to things. So it's nice that you're actually taking a step back and saying, well, look, if we're going to create a new entrepreneurial world and we're going to develop some, the version, 5.0 entrepreneurial leader, then we need to do that in a hands-on way, because those leaders then go out and become leaders for others, who become leaders for others, and who become leaders for others. So as we were saying the other day, it's about this sense of duty to be the kind of role model that you want to see in the world, because how we show up is how others show up, and how others behind them show up. So Kelly, how can people find out more about what you're up to and keep up to date with all the stuff that you do? And I know you've got a Facebook page, haven't you? So let me just get that up here. So is it the Resilience and Growth?
Kelly Forrester. It's just the Resilience and Growth Leader, Sammy. But to be honest with you, on that page is my WhatsApp, and a lot of people message me directly, and I'll always pick it up and come straight back to you. You can also just get me on my personal profile, which again is Kelly Forrester. But for me, I just wanted to say that entrepreneurial truths was, I'm really pleased that you said that, because again, that was one of our first steps to really kind of share stories, people's journeys, and to just share that actually it's a roller coaster ride, and what holds all of that together is that person's entrepreneurial energy and spirit. And I'm a great believer in the powers of the universe, and how we can how we think is what we do, and what we think is actually the results that we achieve. But asking for it is very powerful, because you've got to want it, but you have to actually then take hold of it. So from concept or whatever it is, you then need to create it. And I love that energy. So the fact that you said that with Entrepreneur Truths was amazing, because that's exactly what we wanted to create. So thank you. And it was really lovely having you on the show as well. So, and we're working together loads anyway. I love you to bits. So.
Oh, we definitely are. Guys and girls, make sure you follow Kelly. So I've just put it up on the screen there, but for those of you that are listening, you can find Kelly Forrester on Facebook, as she just said, and just literally just Google this lady. You're going to start finding her absolutely everywhere. And if you want a personal introduction, I mean, there's just like, seriously, guys and girls, watch this woman's journey, because what you're seeing already of Kelly is like the tip of the iceberg. There is so much depth that is coming to the world from this amazing woman. And obviously, let's just touch for a minute or so on Martin, who is your business partner and is also your life partner. And is an incredible part of what you're creating. So let's say hello to Martin. Hello, Martin, if you're watching, and just put a little shout out for Martin, because he's actually really a big part of the stuff that you're doing as well, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I'm really glad that you said that. I couldn't kind of work a way of putting him into the whole thing. I was constantly thinking, where can I put him in this? And it's really, really, for my growth, he was instrumental in that. So he is NLP, so he does a lot of work in terms of the human being and the heartbeat. So again, that's how we complement each other really well. Yes, he's my pain in the ass, gotta say it, but he also supports everything I do. And I think what it is I'm quite speedy, and he likes to kind of just check all the details, and and that really does complement each other's kind of strengths and weaknesses, because we all have them. But I would not be where I am now without him and those handful of people that have helped me every step of the way. He's without a doubt my world, and I love him to bits. So yeah, if you're listening, Martin, find him literally months before everything all went chaos, so again, if it wasn't a gift from the universe, what was?
Yeah, he's totally been there all through it, hasn't he? Well, I mean, let's all send gratitude. Let's send gratitude to those people who have been a supportive part of our journey, and who continue to be a supportive part of our journey. Because we don't always stop to say thank you to them often enough, because we're so focused forwards. on falling forwards, but also going forwards and growing forwards. But sometimes we don't say thank you to those people around us. So thank you to those who are watching the show and listening to the show as well. You help us to get to grow.
As much as growing forward, Sammy, it is also good to sometimes have that look back. Yeah. Because I think as entrepreneurs, we can sort of be so focused on forward. So although I'm forward growth, I am also about just stopping, taking a deep breath, recognize what we have achieved, how far we've come. And so, today, if we just anybody that's watching this now, just think about the people that have helped you. Just, send that gratitude out to the universe. That's really powerful. And I really like that. Thank you, Sammy.
Yeah, it's nice too. We don't always get to say thank you, but we can feel it. You know, and it's amazing how this works. I'm going to set a challenge for you all right now. I want you to think about somebody who has really been a massive part of your journey. And really just be still for a moment and just send them so much love and gratitude and thanks and respect and all of those things. Just really send those vibes, send that energy out there. And I wouldn't be surprised if miraculously they start appearing on your timeline, or they reach out to you, or they say, hey, I was just thinking about you. Right? So send that energy out to that one person, totally channel in, hone in, and let's put it to the test. Let's see if they feel it. And wouldn't that be nice? Kelly, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Awesome.
I love your energy. I love what you're doing. I'm totally behind what you're doing, how you're going and how you're growing. And I just think you are definitely one to watch, Miss Lady.
Thank you.
Go and follow this amazing leader who literally lives, breathes, eats, sleeps, walks and talks growth, resilience and integrity. So we will be back for our show on Thursday. So come back and join us on Thursday. And we've launched Brand Builders TV.
Exciting.
Yeah, I know. So make sure you go and check us out on Facebook. Go and like and follow the Facebook page. So it should be, I think, facebook.com/BB Brand Builders TV. I think it is Brand Builders TV. I literally only created it yesterday. So it's all, you're hearing it here. Go and check it out. If you type in Brand Builders TV, you will find it. And it's a channel that I've created to all of the Brand Builders Club members that I have around the world that have the most incredible talents, gifts and content and knowledge, and they've been through all the things that we're talking about here. They're channeling it into strategies that you can take into your business and put them in place straight away. So make sure you go and like the page, follow the page, and I'll be letting everybody know about it. So if you haven't been invited to go and like and follow it, do go and do that now, because we are launching with the first episodes next week.
Now.
And, yes, now go and do it so that you receive those notifications. We've got 4 shows that are going live every day, and amazing experts that are really bringing their gifts to you. So how fabulous. What a brilliant way to spend a Tuesday. Kelly, thank you once again. What are you doing this evening?
Well, actually, I'm about to go and walk my dog and go around the field. I've got a collie. He's nuts. He's crazy, but I love him. And it's the best way to shake off, any excess energy from the day. Because I am quite high energy, so it's nice to get the sunshine.
No, I don't think you're high energy at all. I bet you can't we're going out again.
And then I may I don't know, the boys here in the UK, they're just about set to go back to school. So it will be an interesting transition. 5 months of no school to school. Right. But hey, it's new stages and more things to kind of work on, isn't it? So going back to that normal.
It is. Whatever the version of normal is now that we're going back to. Well, guys and girls, we'll look forward to seeing you on Thursday, same time, same place, for the next Confessions show. And Kelly, we'll look forward to following your journey as you literally build the brand you want to see in the world. I'm sending you all the love and luck, and you know I'm behind you 100%. So,
and for all amazing entrepreneurs out there as well, you know, I just want you to know that it starts with yourself, that belief that you can drive forward into the world. And Sammy is an incredibly, you talk about integrity, it's a lady sat here sharing her gifts with the world, and it's just amazing. So definitely follow her, and I'm really hoping that your TV program or show is going to be a success. You truly deserve it. So go and follow.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gents, have an amazing evening. We'll look forward to seeing you in the next show, and do keep in touch. Make sure you go to the How to Build a Brand Facebook group as well, because I'm asking questions in there that's getting quite a lot of the old grey matter going. And actually Kelly's on this show because of one of those questions I asked last week. So lots of opportunities for you to get your brand out there, because we are brand builders after all. So take care, have an amazing evening, and I'll see you in the group or on the next show. Bye.